Why do I keep getting Noah's flood? And this is not the first time I'm getting Noah's flood. But this time it's being given to me from the Muslim holy book Quran. And it's Prophet Muhammad who's giving it to me from the Muslim holy book Quran. He is Prophet Muhammad for Muslims. He is Krishna for Hindus. And he is Matthew from the Bible for Christians and Jews. Because it's the same soul. It's the same spirit. It's the same ruh for Muslims. It's the same Atma for Hindus and Buddhists. And he's actually giving me a specific chapter from the Quran to read out here. To recall as a remembrance. How do you like my new background? It's of the moon. It's actually of a supermoon that I took from Google Images. And that's because the chapter from the Quran that Prophet Muhammad is giving me is actually called the moon, which is Al-Qamar in Arabic. And it's chapter 54. It's chapter 54 of the Quran called the moon, or Al-Qamar in Arabic. And he actually wants me to read it out here. It's not a big chapter. It's a short chapter. And he's actually asking me to read it out here as a remembrance for humanity. And he's telling me to tell you that don't miss this video and this message, because I'm going to read a chapter from the Muslim holy book Quran, because this message is not only for Muslims, but it's a warning for everyone. And a message for everyone. And not just Muslims, but for everyone. All religions. It's a message for humanity, actually. So here goes chapter 54 of the Muslim holy book Quran, called the moon, or Al-Qamar in Arabic. It says, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. The hour neared, and the moon was split. And if they see a sign, they turn aside and say, incessant sorcery. And they denied and followed their own desires. And every affair is that which is settled. And certainly the tidings drew near them, wherein was that which is to deter, namely that which is far-reaching wisdom, yet warnings avail not. So turn you away from them on a day when one who calls will call to a horrible thing, Their sight will be that which is humbled, and they will go forth from the tombs as if they had been dispersed locusts. There's a mention of locusts here in the Quran, in this chapter of the Quran. Ones who run forward with their eyes fixed in horror towards the one who calls. The ones who are ungrateful will say, "This is a difficult day." The folk of Noah, who is Nuh or Hazrat Nuh for Muslims, and of course Noah for Christians and Jews. The folk of Noah denied before them. They denied our servant and said, "One who is possessed," and he was deterred. So he called to his Lord or God, saying, "I am one who is vanquished. So you help me. So you, God, help me." So we opened the doors of heaven with torrential water, and we caused the earth to gush forth with springs. So the waters were to meet one another from a command that was measured. And we carried him on a vessel of planks and... Okay, what's that word now? How do you pronounce that? Caulked? Caulked. Running under our eyes, a recompense for Noah, who had been disbelieved. Isn't that interesting? So the video I did before this video, it was about maligning prophets. It was titled Maligning Prophets. And in that video, I mentioned Moses, who is Moshe for Jews, Moses for Christians, and Musa for Muslims, and how, there was unbelief, or how the people did not believe him either. And now, here in this chapter of the Quran, Prophet Noah for Jews and Christians, who is Nuh or Hazrat Nuh for Muslims, is mentioned, and the same thing is being mentioned about him too, that, how Noah was disbelieved too, or how people didn't believe him either. Right, back to the Quran chapter. It says, "And certainly we left this as a sign. Then is there one who recalls? So how had been my punishment and my warning? And certainly we made the Quran easy as a remembrance. Then is there one who recalls?" And Prophet Muhammad gave me this chapter from the Quran specifically because I was asking, what are we doing next? And he actually gave me this specific chapter from the Quran and said, let's do chapter 54 from the Quran. And so, that's why we're doing this specific chapter from the Quran right now, because that's what Prophet Muhammad wishes us to pay attention to right now. But why? And what's the message coming from this chapter of the Quran? All the prophets that came before me were denied and disbelieved by people, by their own people even. Even their own people did not believe them. And it's the same exact thing repeating with me now too. So this chapter of the Quran is telling us how Prophet Noah, for Christians and Jews, who is Nuh or Hazrat Nuh for Muslims, was denied and disbelieved by people. And now people are doing the same to me. They are denying me and they are not believing me. And then what happens to such people? They get taken out by natural disasters like Noah's flood. And that's another message I've been getting for a while now. So what's the message in here? What are the things that are being mentioned in this chapter of the Quran? The first thing that's standing out to me is incessant sorcery. What's sorcery? Witchcraft, black magic, voodoo. That's sorcery, you know. And incessant. What's the meaning of incessant? Right. Google here says continuing without pause or interruption. Yep, that's what's going on with me. And I guess that's what went on with Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, and as I said before, other prophets too. All the prophets, all the true and real prophets of God, or Allah, or Bhagwan, or the Holy Spirit, you know, whatever term or label you have for it in your religions. All the prophets and messengers, you know, have to go through spiritual warfare. And all this witchcraft and sorcery and black magic attacks and even dark entity, dark spirits, and demonic spirits or demons, you know. Yeah, all the dark spirits and demonic spirits attacks, you know, we all have to go through that. And that's what's called spiritual warfare. So yeah, and that's what's happening in my case. I mean, we know that, you know, black magic was done on Prophet Muhammad. That's written down in history, and that part of the history is true, is valid. And now it's being done on me for years now. It's incessant, as the Quran is saying in this chapter, in this verse here. Incessant sorcery, continuing without pause or interruption. With me, these black magic, sorcery, witchcraft, attacks, spiritual attacks are incessant, non-stop, continuous, day and night for years now, because the devil does not want me doing this work. And then what's the other message that's standing out to me in this chapter of the Quran? Connected to that. Now, the folk of Noah denied before them. I think it means the prophets that came before Noah were denied by their people too. And then when Noah came around, people denied him too as a prophet. That's what the Quran is saying. The folk of Noah denied before them, or meaning, people who denied the prophets before Noah. And then the Quran goes on to say, they denied our servant and said, one who is possessed. And of course, now the Quran is saying they denied our servant, meaning Noah as well, and said, one who is possessed. So what? They were falsely accusing Noah of being possessed. And you know what? I keep getting this message for me too. Are there people out there who are thinking that I am possessed? I guess some people must be thinking that out there about me, and that's why I'm getting this message. From Muhammad, Krishna, Matthew, and from the Muslim holy book Quran. So I wonder if there's actually some Muslims out there who are thinking that about me, who are thinking that I'm possessed. And that's what they thought about Prophet Noah too. Or Hazrat Nuh for Muslims. But then, they recognized Noah as a prophet. Whenever they did that, it must have been sometime after his physical death, because that's the pattern that keeps repeating with all of us true and real prophets of God. It's like when we are here alive and walking the earth and trying to guide people and help people, they deny us. They don't believe us. But when, we die, then what do? They take our teachings, our guidance, and turn it into religions. Because that's how all these different religions on planet Earth have been created. And then our teachings are corrupted, are misinterpreted, are distorted, are added to by men who don't know any better, or by men who are false prophets of the devil, or by men who are influenced by the devil and don't know any better. And they also add things and say that, oh, this has come from God or Allah, or this has come from Prophet Muhammad, when it's not. And then they incite division, violence, hatred, and even killing in God's name and in the Prophet's name, or, well, let's say in Prophet Muhammad's name, because that's still going on even in this day and age. When God's got nothing to do with it, Allah's got nothing to do with it, Prophet Muhammad has got nothing to do with it. And those people, whether these are Jews, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and especially Muslims, who are thinking that I'm possessed, well, Do you think your prophets were possessed? Do you think Moses was possessed? Do you think Jesus was possessed? Do you think Muhammad was possessed? Do you think Krishna was possessed? Do you think Buddha was possessed? How do you think these prophets were getting their messages from, let's say, God or the Holy Spirit or Allah or Bhagwan? And in the case of Prophet Muhammad, we've been given Archangel Gabriel, who is Farishta Jibrail for Muslims. How do you think all these prophets were getting their messages from God? Through the archangels. How do you think Prophet Muhammad was getting his messages from Allah? Through Archangel Gabriel or Farishta Jibreel. How do you think Prophet Muhammad was getting his messages? Do you think Prophet Muhammad was possessed? Do you think Krishna was possessed? Do you think Jesus was possessed? Do you think Moses was possessed? And all the prophets before Moses? So then why do you think I'm possessed? When I'm getting messages from God, from the archangels, and the galactics too. In the same way, your prophets were getting messages from God. But that's the thing. That's the thing you don't understand, because you don't understand that your prophets were psychic too, like I am. And that's how they were getting their messages. And that's how I am getting my messages. And then ignorant people who don't know any better because they are ignorant, still, even after thousands of years have passed, and this is still happening, the ignorance is still there. Because you still rather deny, dismiss, disbelieve, than actually learn what you don't know. And that's why you're still ignorant. Thousands of years later, you're still repeating the same behavior. And you still have the same mindset. Hello. Now it's my turn to be possessed, for people to think that I'm possessed? When people before you thought the same about the prophets before, or the prophets who came before? And there's a mention of locusts in this chapter too. And that reminds me of the locust attack on Kaaba. When was that? Was it in 2019? Yeah, that was 2019. And what did the Muslims do? Because that was a sign from Allah, from God. And that was a sign of Judgment Day, which is Qiyamah or Qayamat for Muslims. And what did Muslims do? Because what is this chapter saying? And if they see a sign, they turn aside. Or, if you see a sign, you just deny it. Or ignore it. Or you don't believe it. You dismiss it. Or, I don't know, you make up your own theories about it. you come up with your own theories about it. Because that locust attack or that locust invasion on Kaaba in 2019 was a massive judgment day, Qiyamah or Qayamat sign for the whole Muslim world. And then in 2020, COVID-19 or coronavirus happened for the whole world. And that was a part of Judgment Day too. It just, it's just that it had to happen some way. And actually, I am being given insight on how COVID-19 or coronavirus was part of the Judgment Day. It was part of our judgment, humanity's judgment. But I'm not going to go into that in this video. So what else is this chapter of the Quran telling us? That the folk of Noah. So again, Noah's people were denying him. People were denying Noah. His people were denying Noah. So he called to God, saying, I am one who is vanquished. So you, God, help me. So then what did God do? After Noah called out to God for help, what did God do? It's saying here, so we opened the doors of heaven with torrential water, and we caused the earth to gush forth with springs, so the waters were to meet one another from a command that was measured. Yeah, this is mentioning Noah's flood, and then Noah's flood happened. And the ones who believed Noah and his warnings about the coming flood, or just believed Noah, they were saved on Noah's ark. And of course, a lot of pairings of the animals and birds were also saved on Noah's ark. So they could begin again after the flood subsided. And everyone who did not believe Noah and his warnings, and did not listen to Noah and the warnings and his warnings, they all drowned in the flood and died. So that's what happens to the people who don't, believe, or people who deny us, the prophets, and people who don't believe us, and the warnings we give them. Then that's what happens to those people. That's their ultimate end. Death? One way or another. So let me quickly summarize what the Quran is saying here in this chapter. about Noah or Prophet Noah or Hazrat Nuh for Muslims. So the folk of Noah denied him. The people of Noah denied him and said he was possessed. So they accused him of being possessed, and that's a false accusation. They falsely accused him of being possessed because they didn't know any better. People still don't know any better, even thousands of years later now in this day and age. Now people are thinking I'm possessed. So it's the same ignorance repeating, even now in my case. Right. And then Noah called out to God, saying, I am one who is vanquished. What does that mean? What does the word vanquish mean? It means defeated. So Noah was feeling defeated, and so he called out to God for help. And then what did God do? God opened the doors of heaven with torrential water, and he caused the earth to gush forth with springs. So the waters were to meet one another from a command that was measured. And we carried him on a vessel, meaning Noah's ark, running under our eyes, a recompense for Noah, who had been disbelieved. So, as a recompense, what does the word recompense mean? To repay, reward for service, aid or help, to pay or give compensation for something, for damage, injury, or the like. Yeah. So, God recompensed Noah, who had been disbelieved by the people, by his own people. And in the end, whoever believed Noah and his message and his warnings and listened to him, they were saved on Noah's ark. And the ones who still didn't believe Noah, and the ones who still did not believe Noah, even after he was warning them about the coming flood, because they didn't even want to believe that he was a prophet. They were even denying him as a prophet of God. And so the ones who did not believe him and his warnings, they were drowned in Noah's flood. They were drowned and they died in Noah's flood. That's what happened there with Noah, with Prophet Noah, who is Hazrat Nuh for Muslims. And the people who believed him and the people who did not believe him. And the people who did not believe him drowned and died in Noah's flood. And the people who did not listen to him and his warnings drowned and died in Noah's flood. And then the Quran is saying, and certainly we left this as a sign. So this was left in history as a sign. And then the Quran is saying, then is there one who recalls? So we're being asked to recall and remember Noah's flood and what happened with all of that. And then it's also saying here, so how had been my punishment and my warning? And even though I've mentioned this earlier, but now it's coming back to me. You know, there's a mention of incessant sorcery earlier in this chapter. And of course, you know, that's where the moon comes into play, because these people do all this witchcraft, all this sorcery, all this black magic during every moon cycle. And when it comes to, you know, talking about incessant sorcery, some people are at it every day, every night. They're incessant about it. And I guess that's what connects with the name of this chapter. You know, this chapter being called the moon. Because the sorcerers do their sorcery with the moon energy, with all the moon cycles. As I said, some are incessant. They continue day and night. They do this day and night. Every day, every night, they're at it. They're incessant, as the Quran is telling us. And that is what I am experiencing for years now. Spiritual attacks, witchcraft attacks, sorcery attacks, black magic attacks, dark entities, dark spirits, demonic spirits attacks. You know, dark spirits, demonic spirits, and major devils being sent at me. I'm speaking from experience. And we all know that Prophet Muhammad, that black magic was done on Prophet Muhammad. That much is mentioned in the history, and that part of the history is true. And now the same is being done on me. Now it's, you know, incessant sorcery being done on me day and night for years. It's non-stop. I'm under attack right now still as I'm recording this video, because it's non-stop. It's every day, every night that I'm under spiritual attack. Because they don't want me doing this work. They don't want me to continue this work. The devil does not want me doing this work. And some people are thinking, I am possessed. But what they don't realize is it's them who are under the influence of the devil and the devil's religious programming. So, from verse 18 to verse 31, there's a mention of the Ad and the Thamud. And I'm looking them up here on Google, and here's an article on the Ad and the Thamud, and it says the Ad and the Thamud are two nations mentioned several times in the Muslim holy book Quran. They are often discussed when Allah or God is directing our attention to people who disobeyed him and were punished as a result. So that's the Ad and the Thamud in the Quran. The Ad and Thamud were both located in the northwestern part of modern-day Saudi Arabia, near the border of Jordan. Before sending the punishment on them, Allah sent 2 prophets to these nations. He sent Prophet Hud to the Ad and Prophet Salih to the Thamud. Unfortunately, both nations rejected their prophets. Not only did they reject them, they mocked, ridiculed, and in the case of Prophet Saleh, they even tried to kill him. These 2 groups are considered to be ancestors to modern-day Arabs. Furthermore, their prophets, Hud and Saleh, are often considered 2 of the 4 Arab prophets that God or Allah sent to mankind. The exact time of their existence is nearly impossible to determine, but we can conclude from the verses of the Quran that they lived sometime after the flood of Noah. Noah, who is Nuh, or Hazrat Nuh for Muslims, and before the time of Abraham, who is Ibrahim, or Hazrat Ibrahim for Muslims. Prophet Noah, who is Prophet Nuh for Muslims, and Prophet Abraham, who is Prophet Ibrahim for Muslims. The people of Ad, though no one knows for sure when either of these groups existed, it is clear from the Quran that the Ad were successors to the people of Noah. Therefore, the Ad were a society that sprung up from the survivals of Noah's flood. Perhaps some of the same people who rode in the ark with Prophet Noah. Over time, some say 9 generations, these people developed a society that was very powerful, wealthy, and influential. They were so proud of their accomplishments that they built huge castles, palaces, and other structures as symbols of their power. In addition to building gigantic structures, the Ad were also conquerors. And when they conquered people, they did so in a harsh, brutal, and ruthless manner. And when you strike as tyrants. And this is from Quran chapter 26, verse 130. What else? God or Allah sent Prophet Hud to the Ad, and Hud was from among the Ad himself, as Allah mentions in the Quran. But Ad denied the messengers when their brother Hud said to them, "Will you not fear Allah?" And this is from Quran chapter 26, verses 124 to 125. So, the Ad denied the messengers. The Ad denied Prophet Hud, who was sent to them, to the Ad, from God, from Allah. And in Quran chapter 26, verse 136, it says that the Ad thought that they will not be punished. And then the article goes on to say, of course, when they challenged Allah and his messenger like this, they were just inviting destruction. So what happened? As mentioned earlier, the Ad were a strong, brutish, and conquering people. they conquered other nations and treated them harshly. Right. So what happened to them then? Interesting that this article is mentioning Prophet Muhammad and the tribe of Quraysh now. It's saying during the time of Prophet Muhammad, the Quraysh would debate with him and ask him all sorts of questions. Some of these questions were sincere, but most of the time they were just trying to trip him up. They just wanted to catch him in some sort of inconsistency they could use to discredit him. But the Ad weren't about that. Their responses, while snarky, were fairly simple. And they were like, they thought Prophet Hud was crazy. And their attitude was like, look, it doesn't matter if you warn us or don't warn us, we're not going to listen to you. So bring on whatever punishment you say is coming to us. And that's exactly what happened. Allah sent a powerful windstorm or a tornado to the Ad that destroyed them and left them sprawled and mangled in their homes. Their destruction was like a forest being mowed down by giant machines. Here's how Allah describes their punishment. And as for Ad, they were destroyed by a screaming, violent windstorm, which Allah imposed on them for 7 days and 8 nights straight. So you could see the people therein fallen as if they were hollow trunks of palm trees. Then do you see any remains? And this is from Quran chapter 69, verses 6 to 8. Before the destruction came to them, Prophet Hud and his small group of followers escaped the area and were spared the punishment. And that was the end of the Ad. And now we come to the people of the Thamud. The Thamud were the successors of the Ad, even though we don't know for sure how this succession took place. Perhaps there were a few survivors from that windstorm that wiped them out, or perhaps these survivors were Prophet Hud and his followers. Yeah. If I personally was to guess, it would be the survivors with Prophet Hud, and it would be his followers. Because that's what happens, because that's what's been happening throughout history. That's what happened with Prophet Noah and the Noah's flood and the survivors that survived with Prophet Noah, because they listened to him, and so they survived. With Prophet Noah, of course. And they survived because of Prophet Noah and his guidance coming from God, or Allah for Muslims. Isn't this interesting? Because this is exactly what happens. But just like the Ad before them, they forgot too. The Thamud forgot too. So and isn't this interesting? So the Thamud were able to establish a new society too, and invent a new religion, and forgot all about their ancestors, meaning the Ad. Isn't that what happens? This is what's been happening throughout history, and yeah. People establish a new society, etc. They invent a new religion, and they forget all about what happened in the past. And then we prophets have to keep coming back and keep reminding people. And then they treat us like this. They keep treating us like this. They keep denying us and mocking us and ridiculing us and thinking we are crazy and keep trying to kill us even. Because that's what's happening with me now. Because who invented the religion of Islam? Who invented the religion of Islam? Was it Prophet Muhammad? Or was it someone else after the death of Prophet Muhammad? Who invented the religion of Islam? I know that in history it's written that, oh, Prophet Muhammad founded the religion of Islam. But did he? Did he? That is a big question. Because look at history and look at what keeps repeating and what people keep repeating and what people keep doing. People inventing new religions, not the prophets. The prophets were only teaching and guiding. They were only bringing forth teachings and guidance from God, from Allah. They were not inventing religions. It was the people who invented all these religions, most likely after the deaths of the prophets. So a little bit about the Thamud. The most striking thing about the Thamud was the huge buildings and structures they built into the sides of mountains. The Ad before them were pretty decent architects and built some fairly magnificent castles, but the building of the Ad are like Lego blocks compared to the Thamud. These Thamud built gigantic castles, hundreds of feet high, and they literally carved them right into the sides of mountains. These things had huge doors, elaborate engravings, complex designs, and must have been an amazing sight in their time. And they were also well built because they still exist today. The fact that these structures are still around today after nearly 4,000 years is a testament to their quality and design. Obviously, the Thamud were much more advanced technologically than the Ad, and this advancement led to a stratified society of haves and have-nots. Allah mentions how there were actually 9 families that pretty much ran everything in this society. It was these 9 families that caused much of the problems for Prophet Salih. I see. But the Thamud let their education and knowledge go to their heads. And when Allah sent Prophet Salih to advise them, they rejected him just like the Ad had rejected Prophet Hud before them. But the Thamud were more nuanced in their rejection. They were more sophisticated than the Ad. The Thamud were scientists. They were craftsmen. They were elites. And their responses reflected their advancement in knowledge. They didn't bluntly reject Prophet Salih like the Ad did to Prophet Hud. Instead, they tried to engage Salih in debate. They were a little more inquisitive, at least at first. They wanted to prove that scientifically, of course, that Prophet Salih was not telling the truth. I see. Oh, the scientists. Oh, well. I'm reading this for the first time, so this is just interesting to me. Eventually, they demanded proof for what Salih was saying. They were scientists and technicians and craftsmen, so they wanted conclusive proof. So Allah sent a camel with the simple command, don't harm her. That's it. That's all that Thamud had to do. Just leave her alone. But as a sign of their wickedness, they killed her. And when they did that, Allah's wrath came on them. According to the Quran, they were hit by a blast that destroyed them. Most scholars interpret this as an earthquake. I see. Of course, there are lessons to be taken from the stories of these two nations. Oh yeah. One of the main lessons is that we must be very careful about mocking or challenging Allah and mocking Allah's prophets and messengers. I would add that in myself. And then it's saying most decent Muslims would never do such a thing, but there are many misguided people who do. Oh yeah, and I've been experiencing those Muslims, the misguided kind. And then the article is saying the second lesson is to watch out for the signs in our lives, or for the signs that, God or Allah sends us. So the Thamud demanded and received a sign from Allah. Perhaps they couldn't understand the significance of receiving a camel. But the fact that they spitefully killed an animal that had done them no harm and for no good reason is proof and a sign of their evil. So you must also monitor your life for the signs that you are receiving. Don't ignore them. Sometimes they can be very important. Finally, we should understand that God or Allah has no problem replacing one people with another. He replaced the people of Noah's flood with the Ad, and then replaced the Ad with the Thamud. Don't ever think you're indispensable. So that was the Ad and the Thamud, and what happened to them after they denied God's or Allah's prophets, Prophet Hud and Prophet Salih. Now, I feel like I actually need to refresh everybody's memory, and I need to read these verses about the Ad and the Thamud. So verse 18 says, Ad denied. So how had been my punishment and my warning? Verse 19 says, truly we sent a raging wind against them on a day of continuous misfortune. Right, I'm not gonna keep saying the verse numbers. I'm just gonna read the verses now. So truly we sent a raging wind against them on a day of continuous misfortune, tearing out humanity as if they had been uprooted, palm trees uprooted. So how had been my punishment and my warning? And certainly we made the Quran easy as a remembrance. Then is there one who recalls? Thamud denied the warning, for they said, follow we alone mortal from among us? Truly we would be going astray and insane. Is it that the remembrance was cast down to Salih from among us? Nay, he is a rash liar. So the Thamud were calling Prophet Salih crazy and a liar, and that he was that he was crazy and that he was a liar. Isn't that what people are thinking about me too? Isn't that what Muslims are thinking about me too? And a whole lot more. And a whole lot of other things too. They will know tomorrow who the rash liar is. Back to the Quran. It's saying, they will know tomorrow who the rash liar is. Truly, we are ones who sent the she-camel as a test for them. So I am a test for Muslims, and they're not getting it. As always. I mean, not just Muslims, but as I said, this is what keeps repeating. Like history is a witness that this is what people keep repeating, and now the Muslims are repeating. Truly, we are ones who sent the she-camel as a test for them. So you be on the watch for them and maintain patience, and tell them that the division of the water is between them. Every drink was that which is divided in turn. But they cried out to their companion, and he took her in hand and crippled her. So how had been my punishment and my warning? Truly, we sent against them one cry, and they had been like straw for the one who is a builder of animal enclosures. And certainly, we made the Quran easy as a remembrance. Then is there one who recalls. I guess this is what I'm doing here with this. I am helping you recall and remember. Because as usual and as always, you have forgotten too. The Muslims have forgotten too. And then from verses 33 to 40, there's a mention of Prophet Lot, who is Prophet Lut for Muslims. And verse 33 says, the folk of Lot, or Prophet Lot, or the people of Prophet Lot, or Lut for Muslims, denied the warning. And then verse 34 says, we sent against them a sandstorm. But the family of Lot, or Lut, we delivered them at the breaking of day as a divine blessing from us. So, was it just a sandstorm? Isn't this Sodom and Gomorrah from the Bible? I'm looking it up on Google now. Yes, this is about, Prophet Lot in the Bible, who is Hazrat Lut for Muslims. In the Abrahamic religions, which would be the mainstream religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Sodom and Gomorrah were two cities destroyed by God for their wickedness. This story parallels the Genesis flood, Noah's flood narrative, in its theme of God's anger provoked by man's sin. So what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah? Notoriously sinful cities in the biblical book of Genesis, destroyed by sulfur and fire because of their wickedness. Traditionally, Sodom and Gomorrah have been associated with homosexual acts. Anyway, I read, about Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible. So, and whoever else knows, about Sodom and Gomorrah and what happened there, then, But they were destroyed by sulfur and fire. That's what it says in the Bible. So, But as always, the family of Prophet Lot and anyone who followed him were saved and delivered from the punishment as a divine blessing from God. So let me just read these few verses again. The folk of Lot, or Prophet Lot, who is Prophet Lut for Muslims. The people of Prophet Lot denied the warning. Truly we sent against them a sandstorm. Now here in the Quran, it's mentioning a sandstorm was sent, but in the Bible, it's mentioning that they were destroyed by sulfur and fire. So, but the family of Lot, we delivered them at the breaking of day as a divine blessing from us. Thus we gave recompense to him who gave thanks. And certainly he warned them of our attack, but they quarreled over the warning. And certainly they solicited his guests, so we obliterated their eyes. Then experienced my punishment and my warning, and certainly it came in the morning, early morning at dawn, a settled punishment. Then experienced my punishment and my warning, and certainly we made the Quran easy as a remembrance. Then is there one who recalls? Aren't we recalling all these things now, again, after thousands of years? Because people keep forgetting? And then we come to the Pharaoh and the people of Pharaoh, the Egyptian Pharaoh. And the Quran here says from verses 41 to, well, I guess it's till the end of the chapter, till verse 55. So from verse 41 to verse 55, the Quran is mentioning the Pharaoh and the people of the Pharaoh, the Egyptian Pharaoh. And this is also, mentioned in the Bible. So the Quran is saying here, and certainly drew near the warning to the people of Pharaoh. They denied our signs. All of them. So the people of Pharaoh, the Egyptian Pharaoh and his people did the same thing. They denied our signs, all of them. So we took them with a taking. One who is almighty, omnipotent. Are ones who are ungrateful better than those? ? Or have you an immunity in the ancient scrolls? ? Or they say, we are aided all together. Their multitude will be put to flight, and they will turn their backs. So I think it just means more in numbers. And that they were aided together, they were all together, but their multitude were put to flight, and they will turn their backs, and they turned their backs. Nay, the hour is what is promised them, and the hour will be more calamitous and more distasteful. Yeah, well, the hour is already here. Been here is already here, meaning Judgment Day. Now, let's keep going. Truly, ones who sin are going astray and insane. On a day they will be dragged into the fire on their faces. Again, this is referring to the Judgment Day. On a day is referring to the Judgment Day, which we already are in, been in, already are in, going through it. We are in Judgment Day. We've been in Judgment Day. It's longer than a day. Okay? So on a day they will be dragged into the fire on their faces, experience the touch of succor. Truly we created all things in measure, and our command is not but one as the twinkling of the eye. And certainly we caused to perish their partisans. Is there then one who recalls? And everything they accomplished is in the ancient scrolls, and every small and great thing is that which is written. Truly the ones who are God-fearing will be in gardens and rivers, in positions of sincerity near an omnipotent king. Now, every small and great thing that is that which is written. Yeah, but be careful with even what is written in history. Be careful. Because some of it is valid, but some of it is questionable at the least. So what happened to the Egyptian Pharaoh and his people who denied the signs and the warnings? And how they treated Prophet Moses and his people, the Hebrews. And Prophet Moses he's Moshe for Jews, Moses for Christians, and he's Musa for Muslims. I actually just finished watching a Netflix series on Moses recently. But of course, I have also read it in the Bible as well. So what happened there? God sent, I think, 10 plagues into Egypt as signs and warnings for the Pharaoh, for the Egyptian Pharaoh and his people. Well, mainly for the Egyptian Pharaoh. But even after 10 plagues, he was still being haughty and arrogant and prideful, and will not stop and will not leave Prophet Moses and his people, his Hebrew people, alone. Or I guess Jewish people, Jews. So, what happened to the Pharaoh and his army in the end? They were drowned in the Red Sea by God, while Prophet Moses, who is Moshe for Jews, Moses for Christians, and Musa for Muslims, Prophet Moses and his people were saved and delivered from the Egyptian Pharaoh by God. And this is what keeps repeating throughout history. And it's still repeating in this day and age. Again, with me. So, do you want to keep denying me, keep hating me, keep mocking me, keep ridiculing me, keep throwing black magic, witchcraft, sorcery, death magic, trying to even kill me? Or do you want to be delivered and saved by God through me? Decide. Make your choice. The time is now, because we're going through Judgment Day now. I'm going to leave this one here. Over and out.